What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we saw some pretty big changes to how combat pacing works in Call of Duty Vanguard, and I feel this could give us an indication of what we might end up seeing going forward with Modern Warfare 2 as well, since there are rumors that combat pacing is returning, and since they're making changes based on lessons they've learned to the combat pacing in Vanguard, these lessons may carry over next year as well, so that's why I feel it's very important to cover this. And then there were a handful of other changes, including a hidden change to the fast mag attachment on basically every gun in the game at some point last week, so we'll cover that a little bit toward the end of the video. But let's first talk about what they've done to combat pacing, and this is a pretty significant change. The first thing they did is they eliminated assault from the equation entirely, so now it's either tactical or blitz. There's no in between there, and as much as I know there's going to be a vocal group of people saying they love assault, it's their preferred combat pacing option, Sledgehammer did confirm that only about 5% of the player base would be searching for just assault, and that confirms what I've suspected for a very long time now, because anytime I've tried searching for just assault in the game, I almost always get either tactical or blitz. It was actually quite rare that I would get an assault game, so it seemed as though assault wasn't a very popular choice. And it turns out that is true. So I'm actually fully on board with the idea of removing assault from the equation, but that's not the only thing they've done. They've also adjusted the player counts for tactical and blitz depending on the map. And with tactical, previously it would range from like 4v4 on small maps like Shipment, all the way up to I believe 10v10 on the larger scale maps if you were playing Team Deathmatch at least. And now, tactical across the board is just 6v6. It is the standard, traditional, normal Call of Duty multiplayer experience. And then with Blitz, it's going to now be either 10v10 or 14v14. So 10v10 on the like smaller to medium or like normal size maps, and then 14v14 on the larger scale maps like Berlin or Castle or Desert Siege or Red Star, for instance. Those are all 14v14 maps. And honestly, I kind of like the consistency there. I feel like when they fragmented the player count too much between different maps, it actually took some of the individuality away from those maps by keeping a very consistent pacing no matter which map you were playing. And I don't think there's any problem with having some maps that play a little bit faster because they're a bit smaller, so enemies are grouped together a bit more, and other maps that are a bit bigger and people spread out more and the pace slows down. I feel like that variety is important as long as it's all kept within reason and you don't have matches just constantly going to the time limit due to the player count being far too low for that map. Now, additionally with this change, one of the big things I noticed right away is the fact that for both tactical and blitz, there's going to be a handful of maps that you simply will not see if you're playing with that particular pacing. So from now on, if you're filtering for tactical, you are no longer going to be seeing Castle, Red Star, and potentially Shipment or Subpens. There was an inconsistency here where in the patch notes themselves, it says that you won't see Shipment, but you will see Subpens, whereas with the graphic that they shared on Twitter, it says you will see Shipment in tactical, but you won't see Subpens. Personally, I lean more toward the graphic being correct because it would make more sense that you play Shipment in tactical rather than Subpens. But perhaps one of you guys can let me know, for those of you that have played since this update, in tactical game modes, have you seen Shipment and or Subpens at all pop up in rotation? If so, please let me know which one of those you have seen down below. As for Blitz though, the maps that you're no longer going to be seeing in rotation are Das Haus, Mayhem, and Shipment, so the smallest maps in the game. For all of the other maps, they will be popping up in rotation. And while it's nice to see this actually confirmed that our combat pacing selection will limit the maps that are available to us, and we actually get to see this list for ourselves, and therefore this confirms that it's not a bug anymore, this is intentional design, and I wish they would have confirmed this a long time ago. As much as I like that, I am a little bit confused with them eliminating Castle and then also Subpens, assuming that is the one that's eliminated from the tactical pacing. While those maps would play a little bit on the slower side, I still think they would play just fine for regular 6v6, especially Castle. That map was originally designed to be played 6v6, and I personally think it should be in the tactical rotation, but I definitely understand Red Star not being in there because that is one of those maps where, especially for like 6v6 team deathmatch, I feel like that would be going to the time limit nearly every game that you'd play. So overall, when it comes to this, I'm actually quite happy with the adjustment they've made. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I hope we see something similar going into Modern Warfare 2 as well, where you have just a standard tactical 6v6 mode and then a blitz mode. I don't think the mode in the middle makes much sense, especially if only 5% of the player base is going to be playing that. I think it just splits things up way too much. However, there is still one critique I have here, and I have mentioned this in the past, and I know it might sound very nitpicky to some of you and maybe a bit ridiculous, but I do strongly feel it has an effect, at least on people's perception. This is, I don't like the name tactical for 6v6. The word tactical to a Call of Duty player is often immediately associated with very slow-paced, campy playstyles. And when it comes to 6v6, that's just not the case. That's the standard Call of Duty experience. That's normal Call of Duty. And then Blitz is more chaotic Call of Duty. And I would like to see the name reflect that. Maybe not in Vanguard, but going forward into Modern Warfare 2, I hope they don't call 6v6 tactical. I would much rather they call it classic or standard, and then you can still have Blitz or Chaos or whatever name you want to attach to that shows that it is the faster paced version and the more chaotic version of the game. I just don't want to see the same sort of stigma surrounding the standard 6v6 experience by having the name tactical attached to it. But there we go, that's the combat pacing change that they made with this update, and I'm excited to hop in and see if the map rotation has noticeably improved from this and just how the game ends up playing out. Obviously at this point I haven't actually gotten my hands on it because I'm recording this video, but then I wanted to point out they made some adjustments to the camo challenges for the Nikita AVT as well as the M1916, the two new guns that came with Season 3. They've essentially just made it so the camo challenges are more in line with what you'd expect to see with the other guns in the same category, because previously you needed something ridiculous like 100 Bloodthirsties or something like that. And for many players out there, Bloodthirsties are quite difficult, and that's just not attainable for them. So they have made adjustments to those, so they're now more in line with the other guns in their class. But finally, there's another change that went through at some point last week, and this was a change that I didn't see mentioned in any patch notes. And this is to the standard fast mag attachments. And what I mean by that is the magazine attachments that use the standard ammo type for that gun, so it doesn't change your damage profile at all. But what it did change is it would be a smaller capacity magazine in exchange for a slightly faster reload time. And what they've done with these is they've now increased the magazine capacity on them to match your base magazine capacity, and you still get a faster reload out of it. So now it's just a straight buff to your gun rather than a nerf and a buff. And I just found that interesting because usually there's some sort of a trade-off, but in this case, it's in your best interest to use that fast mag instead of just using no magazine attachment at all. There's no reason to not use the fast mag. And I guess that's kind of nice in the sense that people are going to have some incentive to use those fast mags now. Whereas before, I don't think many people were willing to give up magazine capacity in exchange for a faster reload. But at the same time, those magazine attachments lose their individuality, and now it's just a straight buff rather than a careful selection that you have to make. I personally think it would have been fine to keep those as a lower capacity magazine, while simultaneously just significantly buffing the reload speed even more, so that way you could get like a near instant reload, but you had to deal with a smaller magazine, so they could just balance the trade-offs a little better rather than eliminating them entirely and just giving you a straight buff. In either case, if any of your class setups have no magazine on them whatsoever, and you like running the gun like that, it's now probably in your best interest to use the fast magazine, because you're going to have all the same stats, just with a slightly faster reload. And with that, that pretty much wraps it up for today's video, just covering the changes that we've seen recently in Vanguard. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in the comment section below, especially regarding the change to combat pacing. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about the fact that they've eliminated Assault because the player count was way too low for that? And what do you think about the new map rotation that we're going to be seeing in Tactical versus Blitz? Do you think we should have all of the maps available no matter which combat pacing we have? Or do you think it does make sense for them to restrict certain maps depending on your combat pacing option? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.